So welcome everyone. I'm going to let Christy run with this.
All right, welcome everybody and happy Friday. I think we can all celebrate that, right? That it's Friday. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. Our webinar is going to be about ageism in the work search, in the job search. Is it real? Is it all in our head? What's going on out there? We're not quite sure. So, yeah, so that's what our webinar is about. And let me give you a little information about our why. Like, why did we decide to do this? And I'm Christy Watts from Christy Watts Coaching, and my co-coach today is Laura Leach, and she's from Meredith Consulting. So again, thank you for joining us. And why did we choose to do this? A couple of months ago, I had the privilege of meeting with a group of people who worked for a larger corporation here in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from St. Louis, Midwest. And they had all been laid off. Some of them in the worst way ever. They received a letter in the mail while they were working virtually. So it just really pulled at my heartstrings. And I felt very privileged to be invited to this meeting. They meet every Friday and they do networking. They do, did you see this job? They just try to help each other out. So I thought that was really neat for all of these people to formulate this community to try and find jobs. And so after that meeting, I started to reflect and I realized that everyone in the meeting was over the age of 50. They had been very loyal employees, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Some had stayed in the same position. Some had moved around in the company. They were all leaders. They're anywhere from managers to assistant managers, administrative assistants to the CEOs. I mean, just all kinds of really neat people. Again, they were all over the age of 50. And so then I thought a little bit further and I thought the clients that continue to come to me are over the age of 50 as well. And so I called Laura and I said, Laura, I know you're interested in this topic. Let's do a webinar on this. Let's see if we can help people out who are looking for a job that fit into that age group. So that's our why for today. And hopefully you'll come out with some information, tidbits, little nuggets, whatever, to help out. So Laura, you want to do slide 2?
Sure.
For the next 50 minutes, what we're going to talk about is how to make sure you're not fueling that fire of ageism in your job search. So what can you do to make your resume and LinkedIn profile look modern? How do you present yourself in that interview or even on the phone? And now we really have to think about virtual interviews, right? So how do we look in that presentation mode? And how do you show up, whether it's through any of those pieces, any of those tools to get you into that job?
In here, because I think this is a
Okay.
great opportunity we can do. My name is Natalie Venturi, and I'll be talking about on-camera presence. So what we can do in the meantime, while we're waiting for this, is it gives me an opportunity to do an exercise with you that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So everything's happening for a reason, if that's okay. Is that okay, Christy, if I jump in?
Natalie, I love it. Go for it.
Okay.
Okay.
So the things we talk about in terms of when you're on camera is your diction. So there's a really great exercise to do before you get on a call to help you enunciate. And we see ageism in the job search. So before we go to the next slide, it's called QER. QER. So if you do this exercise, you'll notice that when you start talking afterwards, you actually enunciate better. So that's my little tip. And back to you, Christy.
Okay. Are we on the right slide moving forward?
We're on the intros. Oh, number 2. Hey, I think we got it.
Awesome.
Okay. So I pretty much said what's on here, but what can you do to make your resume and LinkedIn profile look more modern? How do you present yourself? And then how do you show up? And again, we've already got a question in the chat about LinkedIn. So I'll keep my eyes on those, and Laura can too. But Laura's going to go ahead and introduce our guest speakers for today.
Okay, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm doing all the technical piece. Obviously, not my strength, but I'm super excited to hear from everyone today. So, if you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. We're going to be speaking with Nancy Branca, who is the founder of Startup Decoder, and Natalie Venturi, who you just also heard, who is an executive presence coach and focuses on how you show up in the workplace. And Ron Visconti, who is the executive director of Phase 2 Careers, a nonprofit that helps the over 40 job seeker. Okay, let's dive in. To start off and answer the question for the LinkedIn, I do have a masterclass that we talk about a lot, go into detail on LinkedIn if anyone is interested. We could talk about that later. And how to get that information. But really quick, I always think, what does your profile page say about you? 95% of employers research candidates online, and it really starts with your picture. You just having a picture on your LinkedIn page makes you 36 times more likely to receive a LinkedIn message. So I always think you make sure your picture represents you. A few tips that I think are really important is dress appropriately for your industry and your role. Smile with your eyes and looking directly at the camera. You'll look more confident and approachable. Use a solid or bright background, but not white, or avoid white if you can. And then avoiding obviously direct sunlight, shadows, squinting, fluorescent lighting kind of turns you a funky color. And then it's something that's really important I'm seeing a lot of today is framing yourself in your picture is really important. So I think from like the chest up is really important when it comes to your picture. And avoid the floating head. And I have to explain this. I guess people aren't familiar with it. If you don't have dark hair, if you do have dark hair, you know what I'm talking about. With a dark background and dark hair and looking like this, it literally is just a floating head. So make sure that you have a contrasting background, and that it's and you're not that you can actually see kind of your hair color. And the other thing I think is really important, and I'm seeing a lot of on pictures because I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn, even as a coach, is being lazy and getting a great picture of yourself, but you're with somebody else and it's a group picture and you just cut yourself out or zoom in on you. You get almost kind of see you're hugging somebody. Like we all have these amazing cameras on our phone. So it's really easy to go outside, have somebody who loves you and would do anything for you, take a great picture of you, take 1,000 pictures of you and find one that really fits your LinkedIn profile that suits you. The second thing that I want to cover is quickly.
Laura,
yeah.
Laura, I'm going to jump in. We have 2 questions in the chat just about the photo.
Okay.
The first one is, how many years can I go back on my LinkedIn photo without feeling like it's inappropriate? So
I think it should be it should be what you look like today.
You do. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second one is, Marsha feels like her photo looks too professional. And so she wants to update it, casual, but not too casual. Is that the way to go?
I think so. I think in today's, unless you're in a certain industry that expects a very conservative professionalism, a lot of people in the finance industry or in the law industry it's not okay to be casual. But outside of that, we're pretty casual in corporate America. And having a casual picture that makes you approachable. I think about it like this. If you're a hiring manager, you are having to put yourself out there because you want people to flock to you because you want to grow your team. So make it an approachable picture, somebody that you would want to go work for this person. That's how I think about it. Great question though.
Okay. I'll let you go on.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Experience. I'm not going to go into huge a whole bunch of information around this, but it is the meat of your profile, right? Your experience. We recommend only going, 10 to 20 years back of experience and documented, unless, let's say, technology. You may not want to go that far back within the technology, depending on what technology you've been working with. For example, if you were a programmer and you were, I don't think anyone does like Fortran anymore, but you probably wouldn't need that on your resume at this point. So only talk about technologies that are relevant to you. Or if you know that they're obsolete, don't put them on your LinkedIn profile anywhere. It does age you, right? We see some of the older technologies, and what we're trying to do is not fuel that fire if we don't have to. The other thing I think is important, and we forget, we typically, it's very easy for us to talk about what we, and not what we have saved, what we've made, what we've achieved, or any kind of achievement statement. The easy way is to say, oh, I was responsible for this, and I was responsible for this, and I was responsible for that. That's pretty lazy and an easy way to show that you haven't really put time and energy into what have you accomplished. And we all know how you got something done, right? We pretty much I get an idea of that, but really, what are you the most proud of? Especially when we go back into our employment history that's farther away, we may want to talk about one good thing we remember, kind of our legacy we left at that company. What would you be remembered for? And that's, to me, a really quick and easy way that you can identify your experience. Education and certifications, we talk about that by saying, you take your dates off, not to, again, fueling the fire with ageism. It's okay to take it off unless it's really relevant, that, you just got your MBA. Most people that just got their MBA may want to put that it was of recent, but it's rare that happens. Same thing on certifications. A lot of times certifications will say that they expire at a certain time. I don't think even that's necessary on LinkedIn. The knowledge is what's important. From a recruiter perspective, unless it was relevant to the job, it was kind of not needed. And then lastly, I want to talk about your recommendations. It's really important, you guys. I emphasize it a lot in my LinkedIn masterclass. Recommendations are so important. It's a way for you to show up on other people's pages. It's like free advertisement on other people's pages. It says a lot about who you are. And I find a lot of my clients are 20, 30 years of experience, and they don't have one person that'll testify for their like amazing awesomeness. And that, to me, isn't true. So give recommendations, get recommendations. It's an underutilized area on LinkedIn. And that's all I have to say about that. And then I'm going to pass it on over to Ron. Ron is going to talk about our resume, and that's it. All right, here we go.
Well, first of all, thanks, Laura and Christy, for putting this together. I really think we need a lot more, and we'd like to see more employers present to be aware of what individuals are going through. I just want to make a couple of remarks about resumes. It's very hard to put it all together in 10 minutes, but I'll summarize the high points. Yes, ageism is real. And I think it's important, the burden is on you, the writer, to control your narrative, to control the positive things about yourself. So don't let someone neglect or ignore you or reject you because of your resume. That's something you could control. And by the way, I've been working with individuals and companies. I've done lots of transition projects and done lots of recruitment events. So I've worked with both sides, the employers and the individuals. And so my mindset is pulling together the information of all industries that I've worked with. First thing I want to make before even start approaching the resume, people have perceptions. They have perceptions about older workers. SHRM did a study a few years back about what are the negative impressions you have of older workers? And not surprising, but this is what came up. Well, they're not keeping their technical skills up, or maybe they're not adjusting or open to change. Maybe they don't have enough energy. Maybe they're not current. And the reason why I tell that little survey, if you know upfront, that's what some employers might be thinking of you before you even get started. Make your resume current, make your resume relevant to their world. Purpose of a resume is just to get an interview. And so just to tell the world of recruiters, some of you, I speak to them all the time. They're overworked. They're looking at things very quickly. They're not gonna look for possibilities in your resume. You have to let it grab them right away. Matter of fact, they say the average resume gets looked at about 7 seconds, and I'll even share where they look. What do recruiters look for? All recruiters want to know, can you do the job? Will you fit in? Will you be motivated to do the job? Some cases for older workers, they might be worried that you're overqualified. They'll use that word. And do you have some special skills that they want to see? And by the way, we all have secret sauce, and we all have a secret sauce, and that's something special that every employer wants. So we've got to bring that out. So moving forward with your resume, always align your resume to the job that you're applying for. They say they've done studies on this. It's gender based. Women will not apply for a job unless they have 100% of the job duties in mind that they think they have. Men will do it with 60 or 70%. So it's important, look at what you're applying for, measure up what you have, and make sure that you match what the employer is looking for. Now, here's some things that are going to age you automatically, and someone reading it, you're doing their homework, you're making them age you out immediately. Most resumes, you want to go back about 10 years. However, a lot of us have lots of valuable experiences 10 or more years. So a little trick I recommend to counteract this is to have a little section that says other work-related experience, and you put the name of the company in your title, but not the date. That's a way, if there's another part of your experience you want to bring out and you're very proud of, that you could still incorporate it in your resume. Don't oversell your numbers of years of experience. I see this all the time. I see a lot of resumes from our people, and they'll say, have 20, 25, 30 years of experience. I hate to say it, it's not experience that matters. It's what you do with the experience, and that might scare some people. So if you see a job opening, rather than say 10, 15, or 20 years, just give them what they want. And maybe you say if the job ad is saying for 8 years, over 8 years of experience in whatever the skill set. Something that's not part of resumes anymore is job objectives. That will automatically eliminate you from people will say that that's kind of old looking. I get this asked all the time, length of resume, 1 or 2 pages. And I've talked to lots of recruiters, and they go back and forth of what's necessary, but I don't think it's a horrible thing to go 2 pages, but it better be relevant and very tight with the job. Yes, on this sample resume, we eliminate dates. Don't make it easy for them. Technology, Gmail is a must. You're right. Gmail is a must. AOL, Hotmail, especially if you're working for a technology company, they're going to look at that right away. So showing old technology, using current language or jargon related to your industry. For example, if you're a recruiter, I don't believe anyone's saying affirmative action anymore. They're talking about D&I, diversity and inclusion. So make sure your relevance is related to your field. So those are some quick things, and list the technical skills. They're going to look at that immediately. And I see on the sample, we say list only 4 jobs. It's like the movie industry. You're as important as your last picture. So they're gonna look at most relevance to your most recent experience. Now, those are things that will age your resume, but here's some things you should do automatically. As this resume sample shows, there's a lot of white space. That's a good thing. They're going to look at the very top part of the resume. That most recruiters will do that. Key metrics. What are you doing that shows something that's measured, that you're saving something or adding to or improving things? That's real critical. And I think you mentioned it, Laura, not task, but more achievements. Task is just a laundry list of what you have to do. The achievements is how you turn that into something relevant. And I think now, particularly because of COVID, we all have to show relevancy and working from home. And I'm even told a lot of staffing services are just giving people computers and giving them their assignment. So if you could have relevancy or something related with your skill set at the top or somewhere showing that you're using all the language. And I'll just mention one more thing. If the chronological resume doesn't do it for you, if you have something, maybe you're going into the job market or you've been away from the job market, you really might consider a combination resume where you still utilize metrics and accomplishments and you still have dates, but it's not in a chronological form. So those are some just very quick tips of what not to do and what you should do. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. There's a few questions in about the resumes, and I think we hit a few of them, but we'll do a few. But the one I did have is about the email address. Is the email address from your own domain okay? It seems like that would show tech skills.
I mean, without testing it, I always test with recruiters, but that sounds like it. If you're showing tech savvy, that certainly makes sense.
Okay.
And I forgot to mention also, have your LinkedIn link on your upper part of your resume. And we don't put addresses. This particular resume has an address, but addresses are kind of a thing of the past.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Laura, to next slide. Can't hear you. She's on mute. Laura.
I'm on mute. Okay, so Natalie, hey Natalie, thank you so
Hi.
much, Ron. Now let's hear from Natalie Venturi, and she is going to talk about our on-camera presence. And Natalie, I think you're on mute too.
No, I think I'm unmuted. You can hear
Okay,
me,
good.
correct? Yeah.
There you are.
So, hello. And so, what I wanted to start with is on-camera presence is about energy, intention, and your ability to engage. And the job search market, and when we're in this job search, it leaves us feeling very vulnerable. And I want to acknowledge that. And then when you add ageism to the mix, it can make us feel like the cards are stacked against us. So because of that, it's vitally important that you do the work to feel comfortable in your skin, feel self-assured that you're worthy, and you're confident that you can do the job. And in this short time that we have together, I've put this together and basically Another way to say it is how you show up and you own the space, knowing that you belong there. So quickly, I'm going to go over 6 areas of how you can own that space. And it's about one is intention, your interview prep, your on-camera setup, your physicality, your appearance, and energy. So starting with intention, as part of preparing, and I want to cover this, I'm really covering this about virtual interviews because that's really where most of interviews, all the interviews that I'm aware of are taking place usually on Zoom or on some type of the kind of the situation that we're in right now. So the first thing I talk about intention is because as you start to prepare for interviewing, I want you to take a few minutes to journal and start with your breath. And I want you to relax and then check in with yourself about what is your intention for the interview. Now, it can be, I intend to nail this interview and be offered the position, but I really encourage you to focus on what you can control. So it's thinking about how do you want to be on the call? And do you intend to be centered, clear, focused? Do you intend to listen? I intend to take my time. I intend to be enthused. I intend to be excited to be together, and I intend to be curious. Now, curious is a word I'll probably repeat several times because I feel it's incredibly important to stay curious. And I intend to ask clarifying questions. I intend to be engaging and enthusiastic and authentic. I intend to do my best. Those are some examples of how, but do what works for you. Put down truly in your heart what you want the intended outcome to be. And also, how do you want to feel afterwards? The second thing is interview prep. Now, this is where you work with a coach. A great part of working with a coach is where they help you prep for interviews. But you can also do this with a friend. But when you're prepping, you need to research the company, the recruiter, the company's values, and how do you align your values with the company's. And I think this is a great key point of when we talk about secret sauce. Learn what your secret sauce is and how does it align to the company values. Look at their social media, and then you're going to write out your stories. And what this is, when we talk about stories, for instance, the first question that you're usually going to be asked is, tell me about yourself. Now that's just an icebreaker, people, because it's oh, hey, it's really nice to meet you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Now, this is a really key question, and a way to answer it is to weave into your story the moment you knew you were meant to do this work. Now, for instance, I could say, well, the moment that I won first place in the ABC's Innovation of the Year Award during my first year of college, I knew that AI was what I was meant to do. So you use examples, but really do your best to keep the answer to 60 seconds. And it's a challenge, but when you write it out and you start looking at how you tell the story about yourself and key into when did you first know, what was the moment you knew that you were meant to do this job? Then when you are prepping, practice interviewing on Zoom, either with your coach or a trusted friend, and you want to record yourself and watch it back. Now, it might be a little scary and it's really hard, but you will learn so much about how you actually show up when you're answering questions. If you ramble, the strength of your voice, your physicality. So I'm going to move on to on-camera setup. Now, this is really important to do before your interview. You pay attention to how you and your surroundings look on screen. So you can see how I'm set up in this. And so I cannot stress enough that lighting is crucial, and how lighting was going to decrease wrinkles, blemishes, double chins and how you set up with the camera angle. I don't want to be, if it's me, we don't want to be looking up at the ceiling. We don't want you to be looking down the camera from this angle coming up at you, because that will just accentuate, it just ages anybody. A 20-year-old, it ages them. So, and there's a resource guide that Laura and Christy are put together for this. There's great tutorials on YouTube on how to set up your lighting, if you do a webcam, your computer angles, your sound, what clothing looks best on camera. So YouTube is your friend for this. And I would invest the time and practice on camera, like we're doing, just record yourself on Zoom. So I just can't encourage that enough. So, and then people sometimes want to use virtual backgrounds. Now, everyone I'm sure has an opinion about that. My opinion, especially for job interviews, is do not use virtual backgrounds. One is they can be distracting. Your ears kind of go in and out, and then it can cause someone to wonder who's interviewing you, what are you hiding? So another little key tip when you are on video is you can pin your interviewer's video. You can even practice that right now. You can go to me and pin my video and you'll see me. So when you're talking with someone, all you're seeing is their video and not being distracted by your own. The fourth thing, moving on to, is physicality. Now, physicality is how you actually take up space. And if you're looking at my video, I want you to see the difference. So if I sit here and I talk and I want to tell you, okay, so it's really about taking up space and how you appear, how your voice appears. So I want you to see the difference. Me sitting back here, just energetically, versus I'm sitting up, I'm on the edge of my chair. If you have to, put a pillow behind you. And if you have arms on your chair, I really recommend if you can sit without a chair that has arms, because it allows you the freedom to move around and feel like you're engaging, like a tennis player who's ready to return a serve. So the next thing is appearance. And there are YouTube videos, there are some links in there, how to look 10 years younger. And it is not about, there is wisdom that comes with aging, but there is also the ageism, like Ron had talked about, what comes up in the marketplace. And it's about energy. So I like to think of your appearance as be as fresh appearing as you can. Think of freshness. What does freshness feel like? So get comfortable in your skin and in your clothes. Wear your clothes, don't let your clothes wear you. And then as Laura had talked, you dress for the part, for the job. If you're going to wear a suit, it's probably because you're in banking, but you can look at the company culture in your research and find out the way they dress. And if you look at Ron's color, that blue is fantastic for on camera, just as an example. And this is something I learned. I'm going to share with you a little secret I learned 20 years ago, aging myself. I read in Glamour magazine, if anybody remembers Glamour magazine, Bobbi Brown, the makeup artist, said, the first thing you do is to whiten your teeth. And this was way before there were Crest white strips. So what I encourage is whiten your teeth, get Crest white strips, go to the dentist, but nothing ages anybody more than when their teeth are not white. So I encourage that. That's a little tip. The last part is energy. So everything is energy. And, Maya Angelou says, people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. So with your intention, you can decide how you want to show up and what energy do you want to bring and how do you want to engage. And it's about being curious, taking the focus off yourself so that you are completely engaged. You want to know, what do they need? How can I be of service to you? Part of that energy also is your voice. Voice is critical, I believe, in how we show up in life and how we show up on camera. So I can talk, and you'll notice some women, particularly women, will talk really high voice. And when we get nervous, we talk faster and our voices get raised, because what happens is we cut ourselves off from our bodies because it comes from here, because of fear. And we're nervous. It's natural. So I really encourage you to practice your voice, come from your lower belly, speak and do vocal exercises. Another YouTube is your friend for this. And work on your voice, your intonation. Are you excited? And you can play with your voice. There's some great acting exercises that I love to do with clients on how you use your voice, your intention to create a feeling, and you use your feelings. So, and then of course, eye contact is almost a no-brainer. So when you are recording yourself on video, notice how much, if you start going like this a lot, when you start telling your stories, or if you're down here and you sigh and you look and and you see, and then I'm slouching. So it's about being very present in the moment and engaged. And then above all, and one of the key things I want to offer you about energy is because this is a mindset. The whole key to a job search is a mindset, whether you are dealing with ageism or not. Because we feel so vulnerable, we feel powerless. It's about how can you stay empowered. And a great exercise I have found is if you can get quiet for a moment, close your eyes, think about a time in your life when you were on top of the world. Something happened, like nothing could have stopped you. You knew that the reason you were put on this earth, the energy just flowed right through you. You didn't care one iota what any human being, anybody ever said about you, because you knew what you were doing in that moment. You were in alignment with, if you want to say God, energy, your divine purpose, and you are unstoppable. The key is to bring that moment forward, feel it in your body. When you can feel that, your voice changes, your intention changes, you take your time, and you are so grounded. So I really encourage you to do that exercise and practice how your voice changes. It doesn't matter what you say, it's how you say it. It's actually transformative. So I will just close by saying, above all, I just encourage you to stay connected to your heart, fully embrace your worth, and focus on what you want versus the obstacles that come in your way. Thanks.
Thank you, Natalie. You're so amazing. Such good information. So thank you so much. Next up, we are going to talk with Nancy Branca. And she's going to talk about what is our little voice telling us. So take it away, Nancy.
Oh, thanks, Laura. Yeah, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the voice in your head and how that relates to ageism. Ron mentioned that ageism is real, and so it's up to you to control the narrative. Well, we all have a narrative that's in our brains, whether you're aware of it or not, and it totally affects the energy that you bring, as Natalie was saying, to any interaction that you have in your job search. So we know you can't control what the person across the screen or across the table is thinking about you, but you can control your own thoughts. And I suspect that you have ageist thoughts, because I know I do, and most of the people that I've talked to do as well. But the good news is that you can become aware of those thoughts and then control them. And once you kind of own your power in your thoughts, own your wisdom and your experience, then you can really project that confidence and that energy that will be able to show your competence. So I want to start with a little story. I worked for a startup for 4 years where I was the oldest person by about 30 years. And once we were planning a team offsite, like a team building activity, and it was an escape room. And my ageist thoughts started immediately once this thing was planned, because I thought, oh, the kids, they've all done escape rooms before, but I never have. And if you haven't done an escape room, it's basically you're in a room with a group and there are clues all around, and you need to put the clues together to figure out how to escape from the room in 1 hour. And it's great fun, but it frightened me. So we got to the room, and as we started, the sort of frantic energy was escalating. And at one point, somebody yelled out, "Nancy, there's a padlock over on that wall over there. Why don't you go over there? Maybe it relates to these numbers on this wall, and I'll shout out the numbers to you and you open the padlock." So I ran over. Unfortunately, the padlock was attached to a wall that was painted black. And it was in like a little nook that was also painted black, with no lighting. I got to the padlock, and the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, I can't read the numbers. I don't have my reading glasses. And I was like so mortified and didn't know what to do. And finally, I called for somebody to come over and help me and to read the numbers. Well, the rest of that hour, all I could think about was how old I was in that room because I couldn't read the numbers on the padlock. Afterwards, we went out for drinks and kind of debriefed about the experience and all. And as I listened to everyone else talk, I realized that I was the one thinking about my age. There's not another person in that room for a moment that was thinking that had anything to do with my age. And I just realized that I had to own that. So some common, I think, experiences where we're thinking ageist thoughts. One is something that I mentioned in the story, which is I thought about the kids. I hear this all the time when I talk to a lot of people in tech, and there's often an age disparity on those teams. And so they talk about the kids. Well, the problem with that, even though that feels like what it is, you're creating a distance between you and your team or the person that you're interviewing with. If you're thinking about that person is just a kid who's interviewing you. I have a friend who has a new manager who's so young that she refers to him as Skippy. And it's, it was funny at first, but really that's just putting a distance between her, a false distance between her and her manager. Another thing I think is very common is an insecurity about technology skills. And that's attributed to age when you're not a digital native. And that's something I know I find myself doing. And I talk to people who find that as well. And it's really smart to just really sort of double check that, because often your insecurity about that is not related to your age, or it's really irrelevant in the conversation that you're having. I know just this week, watching the election returns on network TV, there was a moment when I just felt bombarded by information and numbers and states and Chiron at the bottom with, the local results and an interview over here. And I just thought, oh my God, am I getting too old for this? And then I kind of checked my thought and thought, okay, wait, I've been through so many elections. I have the wisdom and experience to know how this goes. Cut the age talk. So what do you do? And so the first step is to become aware of those things and that little voice. And, on the screen are 3 very positive ways to talk to yourself. We do know that it takes 3 or more positives for each negative thought that you have to kind of undo that. And a really easy way, or kind of a reflexive way to handle that, is to have a mantra. A little tip, I find I have a couple of mantras, but I think it's really important that you can actually relate to those honestly. To be honest, today I'll be a rock star. That's not a good mantra for me, because that's just not me. But I do have a mantra that is when I'm feeling anxious, which is much more rooted in my experience, which is I will handle whatever comes my way with intelligence and grace. That feels real to me. And so I find myself thinking that a lot, and it's super helpful. To sum things up, I wrote a novel recently about an older employee who was suddenly in a job search. And the really fun thing about writing fiction is that you get to make it all up, and you get to fill in the thoughts of the characters. And this main character had a lot of ageist thoughts because I wanted to keep it real. But the great thing for you and for all of us sitting here is that we get to write our own story, and we get to write our own thoughts. And I have no doubt that if you can keep that narrative positive and owning your own power, that you'll have a happy ending.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy. You're amazing as always. That about wraps it up. We are a little bit early wrapping up, just 1 minute early. I think we hope that you at least found a few nuggets of information that were helpful. We do have a resource page that I'm going to be showing you guys in just a few minutes. And maybe, Christy, you can read through some of the chat questions. But before it ends up being top of the hour. Ron, Christy, Nancy, Natalie, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for participating in this and bringing us such good content. This is such an important topic. I think we can continue talking about it over and over and over again as we are, all trying to put ourselves in a better position for our job search. Christy, I have not been looking at the chat questions because I've got too much going on right now. But as we ask or go through some of these questions for the attendees, I'm going to put up the information on how to contact us. So if you want to do a screenshot of it, you're welcome to. Here's information on how you can reach us. And then in about 5 minutes, I'm going to switch it over to a resource page. And that resource page, if you're interested in having it, and if you haven't taken a picture of it or screenshot, happy to send it to you. You can reach out to either myself or Christy, and we'll shoot you over the resource page. And again, I'm going to be showing you that page in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think one of the there's a few questions about the lighting, and Natalie, maybe you can jump in on this, but do they need to purchase a separate light, like for interviews?
There are several options you can do. You can buy, if you go on Amazon, there are circle ring lights, which someone had mentioned. Like, you have to be careful because those do reflect in glasses, but there are ways to set the circle. They're called Diva ring lights. The Diva one is like really expensive, but you can get a light like that for $15, $20. If you have glasses, you can tilt a light. You can also get a soft box, which those are lighting. And if you go on YouTube, this is where YouTube is your friend, and look and see, just search on YouTube and for lighting options for on camera. And you'll find just a ton of options. There are even some YouTube influencers who will show you in a pinch how you can use your computer screen, like your monitor, to set the lighting to give you some light. Facing direct a window is the most flattering light. So if you do have a window, you want to sit facing the window. If it's very bright, you just have shears or something to diffuse the light. But this is where you practice and you see what looks best. I know someone also in the comments asked about your background. Mm-hmm. If you do all white, I mean, you do the best you can with what you have. I'm actually sitting, what I've done is, this is my little secret. This is a piece of material that I got from Joanne Fabrics, and it's actually taped to the wall. The secrets of on camera. And because it's a peach wall behind me, and it just sends off this weird light. So I actually like this look because I think it focuses more in on me, for people can see me and stuff. So, but if you want to do stuff with your personality, just be really aware, and never, ever, ever be in a bedroom where you show a bed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And somebody asked also about makeup. I went into the chat. I'll just quickly say that. I have a lot of makeup on, and the lighting, and it was about, do men do makeup? And think about actors. When you can get some foundation, not a lot. You don't have to, obviously don't put eye makeup on, but it will even out your skin. And I think it's very, very helpful, especially if you can sit in soft diffuse light, but not heavy makeup, but just something to even out your skin tone. That is not a problem for men at all, because Anthony Hopkins wears makeup on camera, even as.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you. One other just quick one, and then there's a few other questions, but I think we'll have to get back to them on that, is for this resume, and Ron, this is for you. You're in sales, and I've heard only results achieved is relevant. Anything else is noise. So I think they're talking about that achievement part. So in sales, would you do that heavier?
I think everyone could come up with an achievement, but sales in particular, they want to know, did you meet quota? How much, product or service did you sell? But I find any occupation, you could find some sort of metrics. A long time ago, I worked with a machinist, and he was struggling for metrics. And we said, well, what's your error rate? And it was far below what the benchmark was for his industry. So look at the key points of what they're looking for, and give examples of any achievements you can. And we're all in fields that you've saved something, you've done a process that might have saved time. So sales or not, we should all come up with achievements.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Christy, I'm going to go ahead and jump in really quick. I'm going to change the next slide. And this is a whole bunch of helpful tips and resources, some of the YouTube videos that Natalie talked about. And really quick before we answer, I'm going to just throw this up. So just recently, we've been talking a lot about ageism. I talked about it earlier this week, and I went back to some human resource people that I know because I spent 25 years in the industry myself, and asked them some questions about ageism. And I thought the two answers that I got, this was this week, so this is super relevant information, but interesting. Working remotely in many cases increased the focus on an appearance, particularly for women, and unfortunately may have be adding to the to contribute to the added to additional ageism toward candidates and employees. It's kind of interesting. This is coming from an HR person. And then the same thing, the second answer when I asked about is ageism part of the diversity and inclusion efforts, and are companies becoming more blind to a candidate's age? And interesting, this one said, we just did a 6-hour training on the neuroscience of decision making, and the two areas that were not covered in bias recognition around age was ageism and tattoos. And I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Speaks volumes. And something that we have all these unconscious biases, especially about tattoos, and here in the Bay Area, even more so. And then the other thing that is on here, and I'm going to leave this up for the last few minutes of the webinar, is other phrases. I've just been kind of gathering these up, like things that I see on resumes or speak that I hear when we're talking. And I say this, I just said it, I think twice yesterday. I said back in the day, and that's kind of ageism words myself. They and them, and kind of like Nancy said, those kids, entitled millennials, I hear. Kiddo, I hear a lot. And then on your resume, it's like a recruiting, like it's just a pet peeve of mine. If you put WWW, I put not worldwide wrestling to make my point. But if you put the WWW in front of it, it really is a sign of ageism. It's not needed. It's completely irrelevant these days. And I found .com startups on somebody's website the other day, and I thought, okay, yep, shouldn't be doing that. Nope, they're not called .com startups. They're just startups. That's it, just startups. Yep, that's all. Just so things that top of mind stuff. So I'll leave this up. Take a screenshot of it. If you want it emailed to you, I'm happy to get that to you. You can reach out to either myself or Christy. We're happy to get this to you. And then, Christy, I'm going to turn it back over. Are there any other questions? I see a ton in chat, but I can't look at it. I'm letting you have that.
Yeah, we got him. And we can communicate out the answers. It looks like they want to see the contact page one more time, if that's okay, or give it a few minutes and then do. But this is the end. So I just want to thank Ron and Nancy and Natalie for their time and their knowledge, which was very rich. So really appreciate that. Thank you. All of us are on LinkedIn. And so look us up, connect, ask questions. Obviously, as coaches, we would love to coach anyone who's on the call. We're all hireable. And, the little green sign that says open to work, just consider that on there on our photo. And that's really it. So thank you so much. And if no one has anything else, just best of luck in your job search.